You went to Pepperland again, Jim?
I am in Pepperland. I live there.
When did you start going to Pepperland?
1968 when it came out.
Oh, I didn't mean that Pepperland.
Well, we won't talk about that.
Well,
even though you want to.
Come on. Well, was it 19?
Can we talk about the gig? That's what this
the gig.
Yeah, this what this. So we're
the Ed Sullivan Show.
Yeah, that too. Well, that was 64. So yeah, I've been.
See, that's when you went to Pepperland.
Oh, that's when I went to Pepper. I see what you're saying. All right, so I thought you were talking about another Pepperland. Yes, so 64 February. That's when I went. Yes, Mom. Thank you, Mom. You already got all this stuff, though. We're going to talk about something different today. So the show is the last show we're doing. This is the last time we're doing the show, and it's the Beatles songs that the Grateful Dead covered, and they covered quite a few, like 24 of them. And there were some crossover songs that I had no idea that they covered, like Not Fade Away. And what's the song that we're doing, Beth?
Which one?
The one that we're having a transition. So at the beginning of the
Pneumonia.
Rockin' Pneumonia, right? That's a Pink Pen song, and of course Lennon and them covered it. You could hear it in the old BBC recordings that they covered it, and so that's another song they did. At the beginning of the set, we're going to have our friend Jim Weinfurter sit in with us. He plays keyboards. A great, incredible musician and good friend. And Beth and I are playing, and so we're opening the set with some acoustic stuff that the Dead also played, like Blackbird. And Beth and I and Jim are playing, and then we're going to have a transition song where the whole band plays, and then we start the first set, so there'll be no break. And this is at Night Stage in Akron. It's connected to the Civic Theater downtown Akron. It's a really nice place to see this sort of a show. And then we're going to do all the songs a la Grateful Dead, and so we're putting our own spin on it. So you know how the Dead morph songs into songs, you know. That's how we're going to do it. And last time we did it was in Cleveland. We sold it out at the Winchester. So get your tickets now. April 27th, Saturday night. And it really was a lot of fun. We had a great time. And a lot of magical things happened. And it was really wonderful to see a really younger crowd there. So that was cool. Anyway, fire away, Mr. Ken.
So, Jim, what Beatles song do you think is the most surprising that the Grateful Dead did not cover?
She Said. Forget it.
You love the Revolver album in general, don't you?
So, and I really do think that the Beatles brought psychedelia to the world, and everybody sort of looks at Sgt. Pepper's as but not way before that, but a year before that, it was sort of like the Dead scene, which was Haight-Ashbury. Haight-Ashbury was really happening in 1966. And it was quiet. It wasn't like the media had.
But so was London.
Right, London was quiet too. You know, the UFO Club and Pink Floyd and the whole deal, and Hendrix and all that was happening in London before the media got a hold of it. So, and the Beatles did Revolver. Now, Revolver had the first backward guitar, which was "I'm Only Sleeping." Now, there's a song that I'm surprised the Grateful Dead didn't cover also.
I agree.
That song is just dripping with, psychedelia. It's just a great tune, really beautifully done, and simple in its effect, simple in its production. And She Said, I remember first really hearing it at a friend's house. His name is Joe Wise, and Joe and I used to play music. Joe is a great guy. And he's no longer with us. Died of cancer very early on. Too bad. It sucked. But he was a drummer, and we of course loved the Beatles, and that was one of his favorite songs. But he was into it because of what he thought the song meant, which was about a woman. Folks, if you don't know the story, it's not about a woman. It really is couched in a woman's. The female side of life, but it's not about that at all. So it's about Peter Fonda, actually. So I'll tell the story or no?
I think you should. It's
all right. Will I get in trouble for telling the story or something?
No.
Will the teachers come and hit my hands with a ruler or whatever, or the nuns? Well, anyway, so the Beatles were on a little break, a little hiatus, and they stayed up in a part of L.A. I don't think it was in Laurel Canyon, but it might have been, I think it was Laurel Canyon. And they had a swimming pool, they had a party, and the Byrds showed up. They were good friends with them. And a bunch of actors, Dennis Hopper was there, and it was during the summer of '65, it was during their tour of America, and so Peter Fonda showed up, and they all dropped acid. Now, I'm sure that this LSD was pretty potent. And anyway, I think it was also Ringo's, I'm almost positive it was Ringo's first time tripping. And so they're all tripping, and Peter Fonda went off. He was like babbling away, sort of like me, and he started talking about, I know what it's like to be dead, because he was shot at one point in his life, an accidental shooting. I think he shot himself with a shotgun when he was a kid, and he had actually died on the operating table, and they brought him back. A couple minutes he was gone, and he came back, and so he kept saying, I know what it's like to be dead,
Ironic. You do know what it's like to be dead, don't you? And that's what this show's about.
Fonda was babbling this, and Lennon was like, go away, okay? You're tripping me out. And later on, he wrote the song, She Said. She was Peter Fonda. She said, I know what it's like to be dead, and there you have it. And but it's an absolutely cool song. Paul was not involved in that song, by the way. Paul, our famous bass player, Paul McCartney, I guess he got a little bit ticky with John and George because they were short a song on Revolver, the English version, that is. We will not get into the whole Capitol Records trip of what happened with the Beatles.
16 versus 12 is all you gotta say.
Well, yeah. Now, the Revolver album, yesterday and today, they used to cut up the Beatles album, and they did the Butcher album from cut-ups of other albums, and then that's how the Butcher album. And look into that, folks, because I'm not going to get into that; it'd be too long.
But I'm Only Sleeping that was on the
Butcher album. In fact, they cut out a lot of Lennon stuff. I'm Only Sleeping. She Said. I think She Said was on it. I can't remember. My God, my memory's so bad.
But anyhow,
we're talking. I was 12. 1966. By the way,
and that was
the year that I started playing guitar. So that album was very, very influential. But that album was also influential with, let's say, the Grateful Dead. It was definitely influential. The last cut on the album, Tomorrow Never Knows, is one of the songs that we will be doing on Saturday the 27th. And it's a song about, basically about the Tibetan Book of the Dead, which was sort of interpreted by Richard Alpert and Timothy Leary in their little Millbrook house in New York. And this is before Leary even did the, turn on, tune in, and drop out sort of mantra that they would chant. Anyway, so She Said was actually the first LSD song. Very first. And that whole album was filled with those sort of songs. I Want to Tell You by Harrison. He had another one, I can't remember the one with the sitar on it.
No. Love You Too.
Love You Too, that's right. And that had the very first sitar on it. And it wasn't just like the one on...
it wasn't just background, it was the lead instrument.
It wasn't Within Without You, and that wasn't the first one. It was on Revolver.
Yep, Love You Too.
There was so many songs on that album that had that little trippy thing to it. And a lot of, and Tomorrow Never Knows, the story with that also was with Paul's tape loops. He was experimenting with musique concrète, which was a form of music that Stockhausen and some other great composers had, where they would he would take all these tapes and backward tapes and everything, and he recorded them and he threw them up in the air at the studio, and everybody, Mal Evans and all the guys that were associated with the Beatles, took them into different rooms and played them at different times and during the recording. So it was really just sort of out of the air, you know what I mean? Sort of like a spur of the moment on that recording. And they just stuck them on one of the tracks they had. Remember, they only had 4 tracks. They did all that craziness on 4 tracks. And Lennon, he also wanted to be, on that song, he wanted to be recorded hanging from his feet. And he wanted to be swung around and get a
Leslie effect.
Right, he wanted to get, well, before the Leslie, he wanted to get some sort of effect on his voice it was like, you know, like a swirly effect. So Jeffrey Amrock, who was their engineer, said, why don't we just do you through a Leslie, which is what the second part of his vocal is after the break in that song. So that song is a study in total psychedelia. It's like incredible. Nothing has ever come close to it since. And there you have it. So that whole album influenced a whole generation, whether they knew it or not. You know what I mean? So that's it.
Well,
and so anyway, we're going to play a lot of that sort of era. A lot of those songs from that era. We're going to play Rain, which should have been on the album, by the way.
Right.
Paperback Writer should have been on that album. We're not going to be playing that. We're going to be playing a lot of Lennon sort of stuff. And we're going to be jamming it. So we're going to have parameters where we're going to have, just like the Grateful Dead did, where we're going to have one song meld into the other, but we do not know what's going to happen during the jams. As usual, a la JiMiller Band. So there you have it, Ken.
So the set list is not written out, is what you're saying.
It is.
Possibilities
right.
are.
There's a lot of possibilities to what's going to be happening.
So you go from one song into one of a few.
We have some songs that are going to be done for sure, but then there's songs that are going to meld into each other. Like the Grateful Dead and the Beatles did not fade away. So what happens during that and where it's going to go is big question mark. There's several possibilities. Okay?
Great.
You know, so that's always left open during our regular shows.
So that's April 27th down in Akron at the Night Stage.
Like Knights on Shining Armor, KNIGHT, right?
And the
And
show.
it's connected to the Civic.
Show
Get your tickets now because they're going quick.
What, 8 o'clock-ish?
Yes, show starts at 8. And am I doing this? I guess. I'm going to miss Beth. She doesn't want to do it.
So are you doing He Said, or
I'm doing Happy Birthday to Ken. Happy Birthday to Ken. So, yeah, we'll do She Said. But I'm used to doing it with Beth. If I mess up, it's I'm going to blame her. So, all right. So, should I do it?
Please.
Dead. I know what it is to be sad, and she's making me feel like I've never been born. I said, who put all those things in your head, things that make me feel that I'm mad, and she's making me like I never
Again, Jim Miller does know what it's like to be dead. You can,
I know what it's like not to be born.
yeah. he can find out on Saturday, April 27th, 2024.
So last time we're doing the show, the Beatles meet the Grateful Dead and the Grateful Dead meet the Beatles. Hooray.
Very cool.
And of course we're going to be doing some Grateful Dead stuff too, so there you have it.
In the middle of the Beatles?
Who knows?
Yeah, okay. I thought it was all Beatles all night.
Well, it's mostly Beatles, and then there's the Grateful Dead because they covered both.
Okay.
Then we'll throw some Dead in there.
Cool. You gotta keep the masses happy.
The masses.
Hey, look.
My cat, Cuckoo.
Are you
Hey,
cuckoo?
Are you Cuckoo?
Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs?
Yeah. I think so. You're cuckoo for anything. You're as heavy as I am.
Nowhere near. I see a very fat cat each day.
All
right, Jim. Well,
right.
Good. Have a great Beatles gig, and thank you for keeping the music live.
You got it.